On May 29, 1918, Melvin Stanton Tapley was born in Peekskill, New York. He graduated from Peekskill High School in 1935 and won a scholarship to the Art Students League. He earned a bachelor's degree from NYU and a master's from Columbia University. Soon thereafter, Tapley became a cartoonist at the Amsterdam News, ultimately rising to the arts and entertainment editor position. He would remain at the Amsterdam News for more than 50 years, where his illustrations containing clear, often controversial, salient messages informed the Harlem community and indeed the nation over the decades. Tapley's life's work was the subject of a career retrospective this past weekend at the Peekskill Library, where he was honored by various Westchester dignitaries.
And the city of Peekskill, we are proud to sponsor and present this program today for Mel Tapley, 100 Years of Art, Activism, and Education. Today's program is especially important to me today as I was doing research in preparation for this program. I looked up Mel Tapley, as many of you did, looking at his biography, reading about his works, and discovered he was a trustee here at the Field Library. In his later years, in '95, he became a trustee and was here until he became too ill. So it's a proud moment for the library. It's a proud moment for the city of Peekskill, and we thank you so much for coming. I'm not going to take up too much of your time because we have some great speakers today. So I want to introduce Alicia Morgan, who is our exhibits and program coordinator, who worked diligently to make this program a success. Alicia?
All right.
Hi, I'm not going to take too much of your time either. This program was a labor of love that took about a couple of years. When I first met Allison, we had talked about doing something for her father. First it was going to be a Black History thing, then we decided it would be most fitting to do something for the 100th anniversary of his death. Birth. Sorry. Birth. He was a great man. He was a great activist. He was a great part of Peekskill's history, and most people know outside of Peekskill as him being a pioneer of Black cartooning. These images came from Cornell's archives. Went up there to photograph them. A lot of his artwork is also in the Columbia archives. His work was syndicated. He was one of the most important, like I said, was the most important Black cartoonist in history. And I'm hoping with this exhibit that more attention gets drawn to his work. One of the ideas that we were having, and I hope it gets followed through, is to have a portfolio of his work that's more widely available. Later on in the program, Tim Jackson, a pioneering cartoonist of color, is going to come up and say a few words. And before he does, I'll introduce him and let you know a little bit of what he's about. But take some time to look at the work, get to know him. These two paintings right here, he did for the children's room of the Field Library, and they were donated by the NAACP in 1948. That's how long we've had those, and we're glad to bring them out again, and they'll be hung permanently in the Field Library. So thank you very much, enjoy, and thank you to all the speakers today.
And whereas Mel Tapley was an important figure in Peekskill history, now therefore be it resolved that I, as a duly elected member of the Senate of the State of New York, on behalf of the citizens thereof, do hereby commemorate May 12th as Mel Tapley Day.
You know, every once in a while you say, I would have really have liked to know this individual. And when you think about all of the things that Mel Tapley did in his life, I think he would have been that person that you would really want to sit down with and have dinner and explore all of his thoughts. There's a picture over here that talks about climate change, actually, conditions, weather conditions, and so on. And, you know, I guess, you know, all that was going on then, but this is in pictorial form. And there's one over there about drugs, and I don't know how far they were into. That might have been a 50s picture or a cartoon, a 60s. Whatever it was, I mean, you know, the in-depth imagination and writing and cartooning and artistry on the different issues of the day are just phenomenal. So he would have been one of those special people to meet.
I'm just staying closer to Allison because she's also standing close to Lincoln, so I like to get not appropriate or not. First of all, I really want to thank Allison and Alicia and the library for inviting me to be a part of this. It was very important for me, but it's very, very important for the city of Peekskill to realize the history of the city of Peekskill, and part of that history is people. And this is one person that really left a mark. And I knew Mr. Tapley toward the end of his life. When I was mayor, I only wish I knew him back when we could have worked together for things for Peekskill, but he was always first in Peekskill. And I know he was a few years behind my father in high school. He went to Peekskill High School, but he was an honor student, I know that. And then he, from that point on, went to Cooper Union. And I want to bring up Cooper Union because of the Lincoln connection to Cooper Union and Peekskill. So there's always symmetry of all these things, of people and places and events coming together. So it's very important that the citizens, and especially the youngsters of Peekskill, get to understand who trailblazed for them. And Mr. Tapley was one of those trailblazers for Peekskill, and we should all be honored that he was here and part of it. And Allison always makes sure that he is first and foremost in the history of Peekskill, and this is a very important part of that. At the County Board of Legislators, my colleagues agreed with me that it's great that it's Mel Tapley Day here in the city of Peekskill, and we celebrate that. But it's also Mel Tapley Day for the county of Westchester. I was going to be a commercial artist myself. I went to school. I actually did the cartoon, the weekly cartoon for my college newspaper, and it's not an easy job. You got to come up with the idea. You got to make the drawing. It's a tough job. So his body of work is tremendous, and I'm glad it's going to be archived here. People should see it. So congratulations.
Let's act like we're in church and mix. To the NAACP, to of course to Allison and family, and to all of our dignitaries who are gathered and assembled. Many of you are my colleagues and partners in justice. Really, today we're celebrating Black brilliance. We're celebrating the perpetuation of Black brilliance. I took a few notes because I want to be historically accurate. But from what I've gathered in research and in real time, as we're surrounded by just genius, we're surrounded by genius, that Mr. Tapley reinforced positive, we call positive Afrocentric imagery through art, raising the conscience of social, political concerns in art, in a way which speaks to us, maybe not necessarily with vocabulary, but it communicates power. And how he was brilliant enough to redress some of the negative stereotypes that were around when he was born, satires and the propaganda of that film, we know, Birth of a Nation, how your father was very much conscious in correcting the buffoonery and the psychological enslavement, and some of the demeaning racial epithets, the Sambos, the Steppenfetches, the black face, and all those images of mockery. That's what we call Black brilliance, how we're able to kind of turn that thing and flip it around. What was meant for our demise, we know how to kind of turn it around for good. And so how we can take the leftovers and make it a delicacy. And I won't go into that, but so your father had that gift to raise the consciousness so that we would understand that we were Black and proud. That's intelligence. And here it is, decades later. I am one of the youngest individuals in the room, unless I'm slightly older than the mayor. I don't know. But it is. And Malachi, oh yeah. He's a millennial. Yeah, he's about 8 feet, so I don't know. That's but, it is extremely inspiring to generations, decades behind your dad. That even in these times, we have images of with negative images of African American living and life, and to see this is inspiring and prayerfully it helps to motivate the younger generation to continue to protest by way of art. And so that's pretty cool. And so the struggle continues, but your dad's work is still vivid and relevant. And one author wrote this about Martin Luther King when he passed. He just simply wrote, "His light still shines."
Yeah.
And so we leave you with that blessing that as we look around, and I'm just spellbound and speechless because there's so many deep messages, so many just really under the surface, coded, corrective language that if you read it on the surface, you've missed it. And so I just want to take some of them home. I don't know what the protocol is, and show them to my 5-year-old son and to my 8-year-old daughter, and how they can speak through art. And I just love art anyway. And so I just want to speak a blessing on all of us, that the Lord would bless all of us and keep us, and make His grace and face shine upon us, and be merciful to us. And God, we thank you, Almighty Creator, for the gift of Melvin Tapley. Thank you for the years we had with him, some personally, some posthumously, but over 100 years ago, you decided to shake up the world right here in Peekskill with this man. So we thank you, praise you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, good afternoon, everybody. How are you?
Good afternoon.
I'm getting used to saying sorry I'm late. Before I start, I'd like my council team to come up here. Those that are here, please come on up. We have a proclamation that we want to deliver to the family. And as the city of Peekskill, we don't do anything alone. We do it as a team. So I'd like all of them to come up as we read this. There are a lot of things happening in Peekskill right now on a daily basis. I know if he was here right now, he'd have a lot to draw. Jeez. Makes me want to try a little something, So first of all, I want to say thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for welcoming us. And on behalf of the city of Peekskill, we want to give this proclamation to you and your family and members of Mel Tapley. Do I say it right, Tapley, or Tapley?
Tapley.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right. All right, so whereas the city, Deputy Mayor Kathy Talbot, clap it up, please. Councilwoman Vanessa Agudelo, clap it up, please. And our newest Councilwoman, Patricia Riley. Not necessarily new. Right? A little older than me there, experience, huh? All right, so whereas the city of Peekskill is proud to join the Field Library and the Peekskill chapter of the NAACP to celebrate Mel Tapley 100 years of art, activism, and education. And whereas Melvin Tapley was a trailblazer and drummer for justice who was born in Peekskill on May 29, 1918 and was a lifelong resident. And whereas Melvin Tapley was a giant in Peekskill's African American history who served as an early president of the NAACP and as the vice president of the Peekskill School Board, which is phenomenal. He was a founding member of the Human Relations Commission, which we had back in effect, and trustee emeritus to Peekskill's Field Library, where we are today. Whereas as a longtime entertainment editor of Amsterdam News, Melvin Tapley's cartoons raised awareness of many topics overlooked or buried in other mainstream papers. He is widely considered to be one of the most important black cartoonists of his era. Whereas Melvin Tapley was a crusader in the civil rights struggle whose activism and journalism have left an imprint on the nation and our community. Therefore, I, Andre K. Rainey, Mayor of the City of Peekskill, and the City Council, take great pride in recognizing and celebrating Melvin Tapley and declare May 12th as Melvin Tapley Day in the City of Peekskill. Given under my hand and sealed, 12th day of May 2008. Congratulations. I just want to say, as an artist, I'm terrible at drawing, but I've always expressed myself through music, spoken word, and poetry. So to see something like this and to know that there are people who are born and raised in our city that actually set the road, set the path for us to go forward is phenomenal. And I think that, over the last few months, I've got to discover so much history in the city of Peekskill. And it's just a blessing to be from here. So we thank you all for coming out today. Thank you all for your support. And God bless everyone that supports our diversity in this community. Thank you.
Before we will get to our final speaker, I would like to invite a man who I consider my friend, my consul. I don't know that he realizes how much his friendship truly means to me. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, the president of the Peekskill NAACP, Martin McDonald.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you all for being here.
Try not to get in front of the lens.
To the Field Library Director, Jennifer Brown, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the partnership. To Alicia, thank you for all the work. Everything you see around here pretty much is done because of the tremendous effort and work of Alicia Morgan here. Give her a round of applause for that, please. It's much appreciated. I am proud to stand here at this time to help celebrate and honor the legacy of former Peekskill President, Peekskill NAACP President Melvin Tapley. I've learned a lot about Mr. Tapley. As current president of the branch, I am reminded of the words of Voltaire. Voltaire stated, quote, "Appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what is excellent in others belong to us as well." End quote. Today, the excellence of Mel Tapley belongs to us in the Peekskill NAACP and to the citizens of world-class Peekskill. So thank you for that. When it comes to excellence, Mel Tapley was an excellent shining example of courage. The NAACP back in the 50s and 60s was a different animal than it is now. Your life could be threatened. You had to stand up against some things that were the norm. Some of the norm back then was prejudice, racial hatred, bigotry. Segregation was legal. It was different back then than it is now. Your dad had a lot of courage. Excellence in courage. And we celebrate that, and I'm grateful for that in him. NAACP volunteers back then risked physical harm from going out to register people to vote. The thing Mel Tapley knew then, and it still applies to now, is that they were always trying to keep you from voting, either by threat, or by force, or by intimidation and scare tactics. Just so you know, there is no widespread voter fraud, so we don't need voter ID tags. That's a fallacy. We got to teach our community and our youth that voting works. If it didn't work, they wouldn't be trying so hard to keep us from voting. It makes a difference.
Right.
Sorry, I digress. There are so many things that I've learned about Mel Tapley today, and I cannot share them all with you. But I do have to reflect back on some of the things that I have learned, and how he was able to stand up and fight the desegregated lunch counter here at Woolworths at one time back in the 50s. How he was able to help someone become a volunteer fireman. Smith, I think his name Coleman Smith, what's his name?
Coleman Smith Jr.
Coleman Smith Jr.
Amen.
Mel Tapley was a fighter. He stood up for justice. And it made the community better. These kind of battles make us all better. We have to salute Mel Tapley. I'm just amazed at the work as I'm looking around and seeing what's done. I would encourage my son to come back and bring his friends. Just look around and see some of this stuff. There's a lot there. Follow the sentiments of the Reverend and the Mayor. We definitely owe Mel Tapley a lot. But we also owe the families. Because again, as president, I know that it's not just the president. It's not just that person that is giving. Your family gave a lot in allowing Mel Tapley to do his work. So I'd like to present this plaque to you, Allison. From the Peekskill NAACP, we present this award posthumously to Mel Tapley, the artist, activist, and educator, whose legacy will be remembered by the many generations to come on this Centennial Celebration Day. As an early president of the Peekskill NAACP, he set the foundation, and time will never erase the work and service he accomplished and the lives he positively affected. Presented this 12th day of May, 2018.
First of all, I want to say that this gathering
it touches me because this is what I always wanted to see happen. I want people to know that the African American cartoonists were there. It's the reason why I wrote the book, because when I was younger, I wanted to be a cartoonist. I wanted nothing else but to be a cartoonist. And I look in the newspapers, and I never see images of people like us. So I kept this in my mind and my heart, and I thought, I'm going to be the first one to do it. I'm going to draw a cartoon, because it was made to seem as if there were not any African American cartoonists in the newspaper, because they just weren't there. This changed in 1968 when Martin Luther King was assassinated. Suddenly all the newspaper syndicates decided we need to have a cartoon with black people in it. And we started out with 3 different cartoons called We Pals by Maury Turner, who lived in the West Coast. Tad Shear, who lived in the East Coast. I think he was in New York. Thank you. And Rumsey Brandon Jr. who did Goofy. These were the first 3 cartoons that were not only about black people, but were images of black children. It's always black children. And they were the first 3 to get into syndication, where they were actually drawn by, created by an African American. So like I said, this gathering was just so pleasing to me, because this is what I wanted to see my book do. Because I got tired of people saying, I didn't know about cartoons.
But thank you all so much for coming. And I did prepare a couple of little things I'd like to say. Please. I think this is a great day, and it's leaving quite an impression in my heart, and I think all of us. I thank you all for coming, because, I mean, this is Mother's Day weekend after all. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Arlene Stewart Tapley.
Right.
Okay. And I'm so glad that Melvin, or maybe she, picked him out of a nice group at the Amsterdam News. But also, I'm sure my dad had such a warm heart, warm spot in his heart for those 2 ladies, and I'm sure me, I know I am. But his mom, Louise Reed Tapley, and my mom, Arlene, as I mentioned. But I'd also like to mention right now a couple of history makers who also had birthdays right now. And today's birthday is Mervyn Damales, and he was the first African American lieutenant governor in our country. And he was the first lieutenant governor of color of the state of California. So his birthday's today. Tomorrow will be Stevie Wonder's birthday.
Hey, Stevie.
Hey. And also Joe Lewis's birthday.
Joe Lewis, all right.
Now Joe Lewis, as we fondly called him, yes, he was the great heavyweight champion of the world of his time, but we also fondly called him the Brown Bomber. And some of my dad's earliest cartoons at the Amsterdam were based on the Brown Bomber, and also trying to sell this Brown Bomber bread through the cartoons that he made. So I'd like to begin by saying thank you so much, Alicia Morgan, for your tireless devotion. This tribute started with a question. I was approached by Alicia. I was merely getting a book from the library. I thought, uh-oh, why does the librarian want to speak to me? Do I have an overdue book? But yet, her wonderful, inquisitive, and probing nature just had me, well, yes, I'm related to Mel Tapley. And there it began. And now here we are, and it's just a wonderful, momentous occasion today. And I thank you, Alicia, for your tireless work and dedication. And your inspiration, despite challenges. We all have challenges as we go along. And I know at some point, she was still able to push through and helping get this program going, even though her father was becoming ill, and indeed did pass while the project was undergoing its work. So my heartfelt, deep thank you, Imani and I and my family, thank you very much for all that you've done and do and continue to do. We mentioned before, I did hear the illustrious dignitaries here say that my dad was a trailblazer, and indeed he was. And growing up, I remember him getting awards from the NACP as a kid, and he's got me in his arms, and we're overlooking this cake, and I'm like, oh, Dad, is it my birthday? So yes, as a family, we shared him with everyone because that's what was needed at the time. People needed to be aware of the issues and things that are going on. And even though my girlfriend and I reflect that my dad was a quiet, unassuming person, you would think, but I know Aunt Vera, who's here, and several others knew that my dad was certainly, he was a person who would get the job done and who spoke for what needed to be spoken about through the art, but also verbally and through his actions. So he was a dynamic person. We've announced that the cartoons address the surrounding issues of the day, and his commentary, social commentary, is seen in all the artwork. And as our dear Ms. Galef mentioned, we've made some progress, but there's a heck of a lot that still needs to get done. All of these issues a lot of them are still happening. And that's what the sad state of affairs is. And that's something that can be changed. And I believe with the craft, the gift that he's God-given in the pen, reminds us of the work that we still need to do. So he worked in the Amsterdam News in the 1940s. I think he was about 24 years old when he started there. And before that, I think he was one of the first, I almost want to venture to say, the first black to receive a collegiate award when he was 18 or 19. Now Imani showed that to me. She's like, Mom, it's on the internet. He got $2,500 to go to Cooper Union. And in today's times, that's quite a bit of money to begin his scholarship. So as artist Tim was so graciously accompanying me to start this wonderful kickoff at the schools yesterday, one of the things we reminded them was that, you have a lot of opportunities here, and they're all so gifted and wonderful, our children of Peekskill. So I also thank the children and the school district for giving us this opportunity, but we reminded them that yes, you too can get these scholarships, and you need to work hard and apply and get scholarships because they're available to all of our children, and this is one way that we're able to hopefully level the playing ground and be able to better ourselves and our communities. So I would like to thank our Mayor Rainey, the Peekskill, as I mentioned, the public schools, Mayor Rainey and the Common Council. Thank you so much for taking time out of your days. And of course the library department and Ms. Jennifer Brown and the rest that are behind the scenes working on this and keeping this exhibit up for hopefully, I think it's till the end of June.
It's almost August. It's it's down posters downstairs. It's going to be up almost all summer. So come on back.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because I had some family members in Florida who could not come up and would really love to see it. And they indeed lived with my grandmother, my dad on Charles Street. So hopefully by that point there may be something going on by that street and they'll be here as we work together in the summer every summer. I'd also like to give a special thank you to our Reverend Dr. Young, who is not only holding my book here, but I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming. You have a beautiful wife, Our Lady Misha, for this Mother's Day weekend for you to make a little time. Thank you on this occasion. And I think it's so fitting because on all of it is the reason why Mel Tapley, myself, Imani, and I are here, because Mel Tapley was the grandson of the second pastor of Mount Olivet. So we really would not, we're like, I think Imani represents Generation 5 here in Peekskill because of our church. So we're glad, thank you for coming, being here and supporting us. And last but not least, I would like to thank you, Dad, for having the foresight to make such a lasting impression of such positive images that were images for our thought, images for us to really be about social change, and these images were to help better our community at large. So I really thank you, Dad, and I thank you everyone for being here, and God bless you all, and have a great weekend, and I hope you guys come back and see us again.